Well, welcome. It is my honor to be able to be your presenter today. I'm excited to kickstart this topic and give you really a full hour of some pretty practical strategies that I think will be really helpful, specifically now with our reality. And just a couple of things as we get moving here. First of all, I am recording this session, and our servicing team will share the recording following. We're also happy to release the slide deck in PDF format, so we will be sharing all of the materials that you're going to see today. And Heather Barrett and her servicing team will be responsible for getting the information to you. My name is Megan Jansen. I'm the owner of Employee Wellness Solutions Network. Some of you may recognize me, some of you may not. It's kind of a different world in this virtual reality we're in, and we certainly miss being on site with you. A couple of things before we get moving here. First of all, you're going to see a chat box or a Q&A box, either or on your panel. This is a one-way webinar where I will be doing the talking, and we do encourage your participation as much as we can through the chat system. So if you have a question, a comment, if you're hearing something that, oh, that's totally my takeaway, or that's what my nugget's going to be for today, please let me know. Put it in the chat box. The information will be there, and I'll be able to answer any questions as we go. If for whatever reason we can't get you answering your question, we'll be able to get that answer to you following the session. Okay, so we'll make sure that everybody has access to the information and all the answers. So that's that. And if my audio goes a little funny, then please let me know that as well. So a couple of things we're also going to be doing today as we get started. And one of the things that we're going to talk about creating joy amidst this chaos. Well, interaction is a very big piece of presenting. And we really want this to be an opportunity for you to participate. And really, I only have two questions that we're going to be asking for your feedback. Now, this is our first time using this poll everywhere. Those of you who have tried and used it before will know what I'm talking about. If you have no idea, it's totally okay. We are going to give you a direction right now to go to this website. And I'm going to also put it into the chat box. You can copy it, paste it, and put it into a browser. Or if you have your phone handy, that would be ideal. You don't have to text anything. You can just go to this URL, this website, and we'll see some questions as I launch them. Okay, so don't answer anything just yet, but you'll be able to see once I launch it, and we'll be able to work together on this. So I'm going to be putting it into the chat box right now, the link. I'm so glad you're here, Stella. I'm glad you're able to come and join us. So I'm going to be loading this into the chat box, and I'm going to be sharing this with all of you. This is the pollev.com/employeewell194. So you will see this pop up on your chat box and your screen. This is the link that I'd like for you to launch in either another browser window or on your phone. Don't answer any questions yet. There will be two questions coming your way, and we'll work together on this. This is the joy of the chaos. We wanted to try this, as I mentioned. Those of you who know who we are and what we're all about with wellness, we're all about trying to keep things as interactive as possible. And this is the best way we can do it in this virtual world. So we do encourage you to I'll share this website again once we get to the first question. All right, so just a little bit about, you can choose to text if you want to, you don't have to, absolutely, once we get there, okay? So this is my family. We are in London. We work with so many amazing workplaces and so many wonderful people. And it is we started this business, my husband and I, in 2003. Those of you who've been with us for a long time likely have seen us around the community and doing different things. So these are our kids. Jacob is 13 and Olivia just turned 11 yesterday. No, 2 days ago. And so we're really happy to be able to, again, bring this to you in the sense of an authentic message. And I will be, bringing in a bit of my story along the way. Part of a valuable experience for you is to also feel like the speaker is an authentic, is being authentic. And so I really want to bring in my vulnerabilities and the challenges and things that I deal with into the presentation today. And we'll be able to really start to dissect some of these strategies. I grew up in the East Coast. Any East Coasters on the call? I'm from New Brunswick and I lived there all my life, and I came to London to do my grad work. And I've been in Ontario ever since. So I just wanted to mention that I do come from a family there were 6 of us, 4 of us. I was the oldest and wisest, and I have 3 younger brothers, and my parents were both teachers. And so we grew up in the East, and things weren't always easy. Challenges with mental health, challenges with a brother who gets me a bit emotional, sharing some of this, brother who is still mentally ill and challenged with so many instances of sadness. And so we do deal with that as a family. And some of the things that I want to share today I'll be able to bring some of that into the discussion and really share some practical strategies I'm hoping over this next hour to help. Now, keep in mind that this is a family wellness webinar. We do these 4 times a year for families. We're doing 2 of them, one today for you and one the end of May, I think 19th-ish in the evening. So again, the same talk we'll be able to share, but I do recognize that time, and we respect your time. So if you, again, have to shoot out early, don't worry about it. We are running this again in the evening. Okay. So those of you who have been receiving the CMHA Mental Health Week information from us, it has been a tremendous effort to share some really great nuggets of information sent your way, all about understanding emotions. And it's an important discussion to have. And over this week, you will see lots of examples through social media, through the news, through CMHA, through us, through other providers, really starting to shed some light on this. Because we know that we are in a state of struggle. We know that we're in a state of feelings of isolation, disconnection, disengagement, not motivated. We are all feeling this because of our circumstances and because of the crisis, for lack of a better word, that this world is in. And so there are so many challenging thoughts that really start to wane and strain our overall lifestyle and our overall feelings of really how we're doing. So the great thing about today's talk, creating joy amidst the chaos, is recognizing that we have to understand where we're starting. We have to understand how we're doing and how we're feeling, and then move into some strategies. Now, one of the things that I absolutely want to make very 100% clear is you might gather some nuggets today, which I'm so hopeful you will. I like to call them nuggets. You take them, you put them in your back pocket, and you can start implementing tomorrow. That's the ideal. Recognizing that not everyone's going to necessarily be able to start something right away, but recognize, very, very important, these strategies, the practical applications, the ideas, the things I'm going to be sharing are no match or no substitute to reaching out to a medical professional should you need that. EAP, medical help, professional help, whatever you need. recognize that you are not alone in your struggling. And that is the reality of the case today, is what I'll be sharing with you does not replace that. Recognize that if you need help, you need to reach out, you need to talk about it. And that's really what a platform like this, which I should say webinar like this, will hopefully inspire you to start to take some steps in that direction. Okay, so this is just a little humor with our zebra, using a little bit of the stress. So we are going to kick off our very first interactive poll now. So that website that I shared with you, it's in the chat box right now. Check the chat box and make sure you make a page on a second browser, open up the browser, or if you have your phone, have your phone. I'm going to share my screen with the question. And the question is simply, how are you feeling today? I need single word answers. Can't make me a sentence. I need single word answers. How are you feeling today? So I'm going to pause my screen. I got a lesson on how to do this, by the way, about a half an hour ago. So we are going to get there and we're going to work on this together. So I'm just going to pull this up, and people are already adding to this, which is awesome. So I'm going to share my screen and you should see, how are you feeling today? And this is something that is a bit of an interactive idea, an interactive activity that we like to have people try. Obviously, when we're not on site working with people, it does make things more challenging. So we like to try and do a couple of these interactive polls. And I just wanted to start with this one. Okay, some people are writing down here some examples that the poll is full, and it might be. And just put it in the chat box if you want to. It's coming to me, it's not going to anybody else, and I'm happy to read them out. So there's sad, there's worried, there's, as you can see on the screen, there's some information here, then words that are really resonating with people, is how are we doing today? And so I wanted to share that because I do believe that there is, again, an importance of recognizing that we need to know and we need to better understand where we are. And so we'll give this a couple more seconds here, and then we'll be able to bring it together. So you can see there, as people are starting to bring things in, the words that are most popular among the group are coming up bigger, and the words that are a little smaller are maybe a couple of you. We have so many people on the call today that, again, it was just an opportunity to gather some great feedback from you. So I'm going to lock this poll, and we're going to make sure that I can get some information from you. I'm just going to pause that share for one moment. You can see it moving around likely. And we are going to make sure that we are set up for the next one. So our next one, we're going to start the resume share here in 1 second. And we have some more people that are sharing some of your feelings and your thoughts today. So I'm going to ask that we get this poll. We're going to get this poll. We're going to get this poll stopped here. 1 second. So you should be able to see my screen. And so part of the question that we wanted to mention is if you wanted to just sort of halt that poll for a second, and then we're going to get back to the presentation. I have one more later on. So if you wouldn't mind, we've got some really great feedback from those who were able to put it in the chat box. I appreciate that. You know, feelings of overwhelm. I saw achy. I saw tired. I saw fatigue. I saw meh. I saw bleh. You know, these are so important to really acknowledge where we are and where we're starting. and really what can we now do and what can we control. And that some of these feelings of loss of control, feelings of isolation, fear of the unknown, disconnect, unmotivated, we definitely start to see that our reality right now is lending a really bleak picture. But the whole point of today is to really start to find a way to turn this around, and to turn this around with really what we can control. And what we can control are lots of things. And that's where I want to go next. So there are three areas of focus today that I wanted to share, and I wanted to spend some time talking about. The first one is looking at the self-care, more along the lines of a refresh, and really focusing in on a way that we might be able to start to look at our energy levels and better optimize those energy levels. So that's the first thing we're going to spend some time doing. The second thing I wanted to really start to look at is, again, on this side of what can we control, is focusing in on resiliency. How can we start to look for ways that where we can almost accept the unfortunate change, accept what's happening right now, and move forward? How do we get that momentum to move forward? That's important. And then the third area of focus is really looking at ways in which we are able to understand, or better understand, really what we can do to find that joy and create that happiness. And that can also be a challenge for people, where it's almost like it's kind of hard to even understand how to get there. And that's really what my job is today, is to inspire you with some ideas. And that's really what we're all about. We're trying to look for ways to better our ideas. And what can we really look for when we're trying to understand peace and purpose? So that's really where we're going to go today. So in terms of the first one is refreshing. And the word self-care, well-being, health, wellness, energy, they've really been thrown around a lot over the years. I want to really focus in on a couple of tangible things that we can control. And that's the idea. With the pandemic, with COVID, with the challenges, with the strain, with the struggle, there are so many things out of our control, and that really pushes us out of balance. So we have to work really hard to best identify what we can control. We can control what we consume for food. We can control what exercise and what movement we end up deciding to do. And we can control, in so many respects, our sleep. Sometimes it's not controllable and not getting great sleep. This isn't a sleep talk. This isn't a talk on healthy eating. Don't worry. These are ideas and strategies for you to take, put in your back pocket, and ideally start to manifest a game plan for yourself. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish. If we don't have good energy, if we don't have an optimized way of assessing our energy levels, we will not feel good. Doesn't matter if we feel like we're in control or not. If we eat like junk, we will feel like junk. And so one of the biggest tips that I find talking to groups across the board when we're talking about strain, struggles, stress, and the reality of our world is we have to start to think of what we're consuming and what we're actually fueling ourselves with. Now, I have examples here of healthy food. Those of you who've been part of this wellness program for a while will have learned and probably know a lot of this stuff. But as a reminder, this is a visual that I do find to be very helpful when we're starting to talk about consuming healthy food. Is people really still have a challenge and have a tendency to grab the higher sugar, higher fat, higher salt foods in times of disdain, which is exactly the case we're in. How can we start to unpack and almost reframe that? Is 2 meals a day, your lunch and your dinner. Think of this visual. Try to get more of those plant-based foods. Make sure your plate, this is a small plate. I know my dinner plate's double this too. That's probably what you're thinking. But just to give you a visual, half of your plate ideally is your greens. Those of you who are working with our health coaches, this will definitely be thought of as shared as a strategy. But we really can see there's so much research indicating the need for our antioxidants, minerals, and vitamins in times of high strain. This might be your takeaway today. This might be your nugget. I'm not eating enough plant-based foods. So again, looking at ways and what we can control, can we have our plate look like this? Half greens, quarter proteins, and a quarter with the starches. Again, it's a simple thing, not always easy to execute, but hopefully these visuals will really give you some ideas in moving forward. I'd like to see this, I like to say this is the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the time, we're very aware of what we're consuming. And we know when we consume an amount of licorice or a large bag of chips or something that makes us feel good in the instant, we don't feel so good after the fact. And so if we can acknowledge that, that's the step in the right direction. Not to say you have to go healthy 100% of the time. Who does that? I don't do that. Nobody does that. But if we can do it 80, 70, 60, start somewhere and really start to identify what our energy levels are doing because of our food intake, it's a really powerful way of understanding really about ourselves a bit further. If we eat healthy food, we have healthy energy. If we have healthy energy, we have more cognitive function to deal with what's at hand. If we eat like junk, we're going to feel like junk. So that is one of those tips. Now, I'm going to be sharing a full library of resources today. This might be a takeaway for you. If food is something that you want to get a handle on because you felt a little bit more fatigued, lethargic, not overly excited about healthy foods, you just need a bit of motivation, Dr. Natasha Turner, Canadian naturopathic doctor, wrote this book. I've read it cover to cover. It's excellent. It's for men and women. As we age, as the times change, which is where we are, our stresses change. Food can turn on and off our stress response and our hormonal response. So that's a really great read to, again, educate ourselves about stress, strain, what we're dealing with, but again, moving us in that right direction. We're thinking about looking forward, moving forward. And this is one of those ways, if we can, again, get a better idea of how we're feeling and how we're doing, we're more likely able to function better. So again, getting our nutrition under control is an important piece. Movement. Prioritizing mindful movement. So I know some of you on this call have sedentary workplaces and you're probably remotely working from home and you're doing a lot more sitting these days. The reality is movement is important. And it's really important when it comes to our energy levels. If we sit and we don't do a thing movement, our bodies start to break down. That's the reality. We start to see illness increase. We start to see aches and pains increase. We start to see our moods shift because our lack of ability or lack of movement. And so we need to start to make decisions on how we can break up our sedentary time. So this means, and this is an example, if you're an exerciser and you've just lost motivation, you're angry, you're sad, you're irritated, all of the emotions we feel that we are naming, we might feel almost demotivated, like we just can't get there. We can't get moving. We can't get outside with lockdown all over the place. What can we do? What we can't control the situation. We can control what we do in our reaction to this. So can we look for ways during our day, even if you're virtual schooling and educating your kids and dealing with things at home, can we break up your day and call these oxygen events? Can we look at 5, 6, 10 ways we can change our position, stand up, stretch, grab a drink, fill your water bottle, do some jumping jacks in your kitchen, 5, 6, 10 ways you can get oxygen events in your day. And find things that you actually enjoy doing. That's another tip in that sort of moving forward direction is do more of what makes you happy. So in a healthful way, like if I talk about exercise, that might sound like the least more important thing on your priority list right now, and that's totally okay. But if we can start with breaking up your sedentary time, that is a step in the right direction. You might not care to go out for a 30-minute run on your own. That's totally fine. Can you really, what can you do? What can you look to start kind of moving yourself in that direction? It's only going to make us feel better. And that's important. This is a really great tip, possibly a tip for those of you who kind of struggle with the demotivation or the lack of motivation these days, which is again across the board. Do 5 minutes and then decide. Do 5, then decide if the couch is more exciting, if that Netflix series is more exciting. In some cases, it will be more exciting. Acknowledge that you don't have the energy to do it today. Totally okay. But do 5 minutes. The next time you might say, oh, I can do that, the recorded video that Laura, one of the health coaches, did, or the meditation session that Denise has. And we have, again, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, we have tons of recordings of so many great exercises, stretching programs, meditation classes that we have in our vault and you have access to. Do 5 minutes and just see how you do. This is something that really kind of stuck with me with this exercise piece. It's deciding that the longevity of your body and mind are important enough. It's kind of reframing the language that exercise is a chore. It's like, oh gosh, another thing I have to do today when I don't feel like doing a thing. It's recognizing that feeling, those emotions first. Then do we have an ounce of energy to try to help ourselves feel even a little bit better? And some days the answer will be absolutely not, and that's okay. Can we look at this though as less as a chore, more of it's a mind break? It's a mind, it's helpful for our minds when we can start to exercise a little bit further and a little bit more. This might look familiar to you. It's called habit stacking. It's sort of taking things we do every day and stacking exercise and movement and positive thinking and stretching and meditation with different things we do. Brushing your teeth twice a day. Can you do 10, 20 squats each time you brush your teeth? True story, 10 years ago, I presented some information to a firm, and I see this lady at Costco recently. And she says, Megan, do you remember that thing you talked about with pairing up exercise with things we do every day? And I said, yeah. She's like, 10 years later, I'm still doing it. She does her 40 squats a day, and she does 20 in the morning and 20 at night. And that to her is a step in her right direction. So whatever it means for you, it's going to mean differently for different people. And that we definitely have to recognize that. Now, the third piece of this refreshing sort of self-care piece, and then we're going to move on to opportunity and some really great tips along our way here, is sleep. Now, this isn't a sleep talk. It's definitely more of a holistic look at creating joy, and we're really focusing on optimizing your energy to start with. So sleep is an important predictor of that, is if we don't sleep well, we feel less refreshed in the morning. We might, have a hard time falling asleep at nighttime, or we fall asleep really well and then we wake up at the same time every single night and we're wide awake for a while and then we fall back asleep and we feel terrible waking up when we're supposed to. I hear you. It's a challenge, and sleep is definitely one of those things that is a challenge to have right now. One of the things that another resource that I love to share out of my library is this. So Dr. Greg Wells, that name might sound familiar to you. He's tremendous. He's a Canadian, does some really great work at U of T. He's a peak performance scientist. He does some really great stuff. He's a great author. Anyway, he wrote this book called The Ripple Effect. Sleep better, eat better, move better, think better. And again, as a resource, this might be a takeaway, might not, but the resource on sleep better, tremendous. The best analysis of sleep I've ever read. So it's a really great resource for those of you who do struggle with sleep, and learning how to prioritize that. And so this might be your takeaway. It might mean, looking at some ways to improve our sleep, different strategies that work for you. We don't have time to get into too many today, but one of the ones that I really find helpful is, and Dr. Wells talks about this in his book, is creating a 10-minute, 15-minute buffer before you go to sleep. So instead of kind of watching your CSI show or your CNN or whatever you watch at nighttime, where it's not a very relaxing way of kind of getting into relaxation mode for sleep, and then going right to bed, it can be very difficult. Your minds are still churning. And so there's different ways, and I'm going to talk about a couple coming up here on ways we can alleviate some of the brain activity before we go to sleep. And so one of the other strategies he talks about in his book is after 15 minutes, if you're still swearing at the alarm clock, get up. So nothing's worse than sitting there and staring wide awake. So get up, do something calming, try some relaxation, breathing, some stretches, some tea, something to really relax you. And you're likely more quickly going to be able to fall back to sleep. Again, not for everybody. And we recognize that this is definitely something that may or may not fit within your step in the right direction. It might not mean anything to you. You might be a great sleeper. But those who are struggling with sleep, this is a really great resource that I wanted to share. Now, the second bucket of information and supports that I wanted to share today is really looking at resiliency. And that is a word that you'll likely hear a lot during, over the next little while here, is trying to find ways in which we can really acknowledge certain aspects of our world right now that we just can't control. And I think because the world is in such a flux, uncertainty, there's fear, there's worry, there's overwhelm, there's all the emotions that we've named and feelings we're under right now in our struggle. It's sometimes very difficult to really look forward. And that is where I am hoping to inspire some of you with some ideas on what to do to help you move in that right direction. Now, this is a really great exercise that I would do if I were live, and I'd have you do while I'm kind of walking you through it. This is what I would love for your takeaway to be. I want you to try this activity. I've done this with leaders and groups all over the place. It's really, really interesting. It's the first one there is assessing your energy levels over the day. And so back in the olden days, there was a time management play. You got to, figure out what time and how much time you're spending on this and what time you have open. And that's changed. There's so many different things we're needing to do now. There's blurred boundaries, there's working, there's being at home, there's schooling, there's so many different things that we really can't put in a bucket of time management anymore. Versus we have to start thinking of still this energy idea on energy management. So this is what I love for you to do. If you have an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, grab it, and a pen. If you don't worry about it. Do it later. Take your sheet, draw a line down the middle. On the top left-hand corner, write energizers. On the top left-hand corner, or vice versa, I forget what I'm seeing here with my left and right, you want to write energy suckers. So energy suckers would be things that absolutely destroy your spirit. Writing them down is so powerful. During a typical day, what absolutely is energy sucking you dry? For at the end of the day, you're mentally exhausted. Write them down in a list. Doesn't have to be most important to least important, just get them down. On the energizer list, what are all of the things that you go through on a day that give you fulfillment, that give you happiness, that really give you a smile? Even amidst our crazy times right now and our chaos, what are some things that truly give you joy over your day? Is it that cup of coffee? Is it hugging our kids? Is it preparing a meal? Is it your exercise class? Is it your deep breathing? Is it your gratitude journal? Is it a dear friend, colleague, spouse, partner, whoever it is, and whatever it is? Really look at making a list for energizers, things that really give you fulfillment, and then things that destroy your spirit. And this is what you do with it. The idea is to balance all the energizers with the energy suckers. You go really and you just take from your list certain things that you can and build your day according to things that really are fulfilling for you and purposeful for you, and things that really more of a destroying kind of aspect, person, a conversation, a challenge. What are some of those things? And then you can balance your day with really looking at an energizer, energy sucker, energizer, energy sucker. End your day and start your day with an energizing activity or an energizing conversation or something on that energizing list. This is how we determine our energy cycles. And if we focus on things that we just really have a hard time dealing with day in, day out, at the end of the day, we're mentally exhausted. We don't have any joy left. So if we can start to pair up our day, instead of an hour here, an hour there for time management, let's really focus in on our energy management. And that can be a really powerful thing for some people. That might be your takeaway. So again, there's so many different ways in which we can spin the idea of moving in this right direction. And again, something is going to click for one of you, probably different than another. So, but what is it? And acknowledging what it might be. Some of you might recognize the name Brené Brown. This was something that I came across that I absolutely loved. We will not go back to normal. Normal never was. Our pre-corona existence was not normal, other than we normalized greed, inequity, exhaustion, depletion, extraction, disconnection, confusion, rage, hoarding, hate, and lack. We should not long to return, my friends. We are being given the opportunity to stitch a new garment, one that fits all of humanity and nature. We are being given the opportunity to stitch a new garment. That hit me square in the face. When I read this, I said, I have to share this. It's a way to put into perspective what we're dealing with, what we are having to deal with. But really, what is that glimpse of hope? What is the glimpse of opportunity that we can really start to address and start to line up for ourselves? And this is something that I'm going to now kind of get into a little bit, is different things that you might find inspiring to, again, move you in that direction to more joy, more happiness, and really the opportunity to stitch something new for you. And that's the idea. So now there are a couple of things that when we start this discussion on opportunity and finding something that's really going to resonate for you, we might need time to reflect on really and relax a little bit and understand what's going to make the most sense for me as an individual. And this was something that I had to get really good at, and I was not very good at. When we first started the talk today, I shared a little glimpse into my world growing up. Mental illness was something that I dealt with through my immediate family members, and it has never, unfortunately, gotten much better, other than the fact that I'm now 18 hours away. So it has been a challenge for our family to go through. When my brother was 14 years old, it started. Unfortunately, he got into the wrong crowds, suspended from school, started to unfortunately abuse drugs, gambling. We had some really terrible times growing up as a family, and it was very, very, very difficult for my family and my mom and dad. Around the same time, my mom and dad ended up retiring from school, and they ended up getting into an investment property, which unfortunately went bad, and they had to claim bankruptcy at 65 years old. So there were so many challenges that were very identifiable for me. And being the fixer, I had a really, really tough challenge to be away and not being able to really do anything. So I had to start to figure things out on what I could do. I mean, couldn't control what was going on. I had to learn how to control what I could. And so I did a lot of work. I worked with a cognitive behavioral therapist for 2 years. That made me helped me tremendously understand what my steps needed to be in order to move myself forward in the disdain and struggle that I was dealing with. And I'm really happy to be able to share some of these now in the next 15 minutes now on things that really helped me. One of the things that I'm type AAA, those of you who might know who I am. Type AAA is kind of my title. I don't do a lot of relaxing, unfortunately, and I'm not great, but I had to learn how to do this. Is more of a self-reflection and almost a forcing myself to slow down. And that is hard, especially when our boundaries are blurred right now with work and life and family and kids and schooling and everything else in between, ailing families, ailing parents. It's definitely, it's not a selfish thing to really reflect on what you need. And that is an important step in that creating joy equation, is recognizing that it's not selfish to take care of ourselves. And so deep breathing, as trivial as this might feel and sound, doing this a couple of times a day helped me tremendously. When I felt that I was getting to be in things were all, lots were, I felt were going wrong. My sleep was all over the place. I wasn't in a very good headspace. I don't think I had a depression, but I certainly had a mild form, and I was really going through some challenges. And so some deep breathing, some meditation. I have faith. I had to really rely on my faith a lot, and I do that every day because of obviously the disdain we're under right now. But there are certain things we can lean into, and some people love meditation. So I wanted to put this resource on the screen, meditation at the calm.com site. There are lots of apps and all sorts of things out there, but this calm.com site, if you're not familiar with it, and I'm sure there's an app for that, some really great ways to teach you how to relax and to teach you how to take care of yourself. And that is something that I found to be a really powerful nugget when I was really learning how to do this. The other side of this was really looking at ways to identify my development and really how I can then help others and develop others. And I think that's really part of this world of health and wellness and employee health and wellness and health promotion at work, is finding ways in which we can share and collaborate and give ideas and nuggets as takeaways. And so this is my more of my library. A couple of books here that I found to be really helpful. One of which was a game changer for me. When I was really struggling there a few years ago, this was the book of books for me. Now I got the audio, you see it's in my car, so it's empty. But Peaks and Valleys by Dr. Spencer Johnson was a game changer for me. I really, because I lived with this and I didn't understand, but I needed a way to really look at things differently. And this was it was a tremendous perspective switch for me. So Peaks and Valleys by Dr. Spencer Johnson. My picture is covering the other one there, Who Moved My Cheese? Some of you might recognize that title. That is the same author. So it's a really great read. It's a parable format, so it's a little story. And it's a really great look at ups and downs of kind of our feelings, our emotions, our stresses, our challenges. If any takeaway from today, it's that one for sure. I'd love to hear about and there's more. There's so many different ones here. What's another one? This is the Brene Brown one, Rising Strong. I found this to be also helpful. This I just got at Chapters, and there's again, you can find so many different ways to, again, lean into what works for you. I mentioned my faith, and this book by Rick Warren is The Purpose-Driven Life. What on earth am I here for? This was a tremendous read. If that is again your what you rely on, and I have to tell you, I just ordered it yesterday on Amazon, is Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. So I saw this TED talk of his, and he said something, and I'm finishing today's talk with his one suggestion, and I ordered that book. So that's my next goal, is to create a talk around some of the stuff that Jay Shetty talks about, and some really great ways to train your mind for peace and purpose every day. So I found that to be a takeaway that I jumped on, and sort of my road to stepping in that right direction, to try to find more joy and more happiness. Now, the third bucket is really starting to now turn this into more of an inward reflection, continuing that discussion on really what is your purpose, finding that purpose. And that is such a powerful thing to recognize. And some people are really, really good at recognizing what their purpose truly is. Some people need a little bit of help. I did. And so one of the things that I found to be helpful in this reflection of finding joy, creating joy, finding more happiness in my day-to-day, it was recognizing that my thoughts weren't always in line with what I wanted to really feel. And so I learned how to create almost a buffer, where if I have a really tough meeting or a tough day with work, and then I have to go and make a meal or figure things out for my family, I was literally going, which we're all doing this likely now, if those of you have children, is going from one thing to another without much of a break in between. And so this is one of the things that Dr. Greg Wells talks about in his book, Ripple Effect, is creating a time where you do take, it might not even be 5 or 10 minutes, but a minute or two in between things that you need to do. Take some deep breaths, grab a drink of water, try to just relax before you move on to another thing. And this is challenging with blurred boundaries, but this is really a great step in that direction. One of the other things that I found to be riveting in my reflection of this topic is learning from young poets like Amanda Gorman. Those of you who watched the inauguration, there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. And I found that to be such a powerful example of exactly the topics of really what we're wanting to share today, is opportunity. We are dealing with this now. How can we move forward in the steps that we need to take as individuals? And some people are going to find it to be very much an exciting time. Some people will not. And it's just, again, the recognition of how we're doing and how we're feeling is so important. One of the strategies that was tremendously helpful for me when I was really struggling was I had a lot of stuff in my mind, and I was really wanting to get to a point where I was able to get it out of my headspace, because it was really consuming my headspace. It was affecting my sleep and so many different things. And so I found creating a board. Now, those of you who've heard me speak before, I do share some of the strategies in different examples. This is one of them, is really putting our worries on paper and writing things down versus always in your mind and always in your head. But I took it a step further, and I actually put pictures on a worry board. And I started to identify challenges and worries that I was really struggling with. So you see there, excuse me, my brother, my home province, different challenges that, was worrying me during that time frame. And by just getting it out, it was really helpful to really kind of release those things, the things that I really couldn't control. And that's what that's what I recognized. What I could control is looking for ways to, I'm going to move my picture over a bit, is looking for ways to kind of get things out of our minds. And this is another way you might also find helpful, is instead of putting it in a list format or picture format, um, having like a book, almost like a journal aspect. I'll just use this book for an example, where at the, you flip the book. Laura, one of our health coaches, talks a lot about this, is like almost brain dumping. So at the back of the book, you write down everything that is really on your mind that's challenging, your worries, your angers, your fears, your uncertainties, getting it out of your mind. And then on the right side, this is where you put where you're grateful, and this is sort of the gratitude side. So you have a brain dump side and you have a gratitude side. It's a really efficient way to just get things out, because that can also be quite consuming when we're starting to, again, explore different things that might make sense for us. Vision board, goal board might be something, or lists of things to help you move in that direction can also be beneficial for some. This is definitely one of my main go-tos when I'm struggling, is focusing in on certain aspects of our family life and my personal life that makes sense for me and our family, and focusing in on those positive things. And so the black dots are magnets. I have this 6 by 8 foot wall in our home. It's nothing you got to go home and create unless you want to. But it's very visual, and it helps us work toward some of our goals as a family, and it helps with perspective. And so a big part of what we do, which is coming up, is our community work and some of the things that we do to help others. And I find that to be an important piece. Now, with this brain dump and gratitude side, I wanted to share this. You're going to see this. I'll share the deck, of course. But you'll also see the different ideas on journal prompts. People are kind of have sometimes struggle with what do I write? Like, what do I write? I know gratitude's important, and it definitely can change and alter our perception of what's happening. It can immediately make changes in a really positive way for us if we can start thinking about what we're grateful for. But sometimes it's kind of hard to get going. So if I asked you, well, name something that makes you happy, that might be a little bit easier to answer than, what do I write? What are the 3 things I'm most grateful for today? But so there's some really great information out there that I find to be helpful in this conversation of gratitude, that I also think that is a really helpful way to, again, move the dial and just uptick a little bit in our momentum and how we need to look for ways to move forward, and whatever that means for us. So I have one more poll, and then I'm finishing off the talk today. So I'm going to share one more poll with you. And one of the things that I would love for your participation is with this one, is looking at this one. What are you grateful for today? So let me just open it here. I'm going to make sure, and if you can't see it, oops, let me just resume share. Oh, I love to see all these things. If it fills up, which it might, just put it in the chat box. What are you grateful for today? I just think that this is such an important question, that we can sometimes really focus in on the negative, the stuff that's going on, that we really sometimes have a really challenging time within the struggles that we're under. And this is something that I find we need to talk more about. We need to collaborate more. How are we doing, and really what can we be grateful for? So I'm going to read some of the chat responses as well to our discussion, because I just love that. Family, work, there's some really great things: the sunshine, grandchildren, cat, your day off, your health, vaccine. I haven't seen vaccine yet. But there's so many different rest, relaxation. There's some really great answers coming, and I just love that. So thanks for sharing that. I'm just going to lock that up, and then we're going to finish off with a couple more thoughts, and then we're all through here. vaccines, nurses, doctors, first responders. Thanks for sharing that, Sophia. You got it. So we're going to just lock that one. And thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to next just move over to the final few thoughts of today. And then we are ready to roll. So one of the things that I loved as we tie up the happiness and sort of creating joy talk is really looking for ways that we doing more of what makes us happy. Now, I say that, you know, and it's recognizing that we're not in a good space right now, but what can we do to move forward and look for ways to hopefully help us do that. And one of the things that I find is an important discussion is not looking for happiness, but finding ways to create it. And so this might be your takeaway. One of the things that we do as a family, and this is my purpose for sure, is to help people. That is what I've been born to do. And what I do is I love to help people. And we've extended that passion of ours with our kids. And when my boy was 7, so 6 years ago, we were at our parish doing food hamper preparation for Christmas time. And he comes home at 7 and he says, "Mommy, I want to start a program." And so he went up to his room, he started pulling his toys, and he wanted to give them to kids in our street. Well, we don't live in a very impoverished neighborhood, but the idea was he wanted to write a letter to his class, and he was in grade 1, and his daddy was coming with his truck, and we wanted people to bring some toys to the school, and then we wanted to match them up with kids who need them the most. So we started this 6 years ago. We have our home as a home base. Past year, we had to do something completely different because of COVID. We had a 16 by 8 and 10 foot trailer in our driveway. Anyway, so you can see all the items at the gently used donations from friends and families. And then we connect with all sorts of the shelters, youth opportunities, Unlimited, Sanctuary London, groups, needy groups that need support. And we, over the years, we take everything, we have our list of families, we put them together in bags, and then Bennett Trucks lets us deliver them. We've been doing this for 6 years, and it is all by far the most important time of our year. And this has been something that we've done every year. And to date, just under 3,500 children because of a 7-year-old idea. And so I share this as an inspiration to look for ways in which you can give of your time, your talent, your treasures. Giving and helping, volunteering, supporting, nothing feels better. So talk about really filling up our joyful cup, our joy-filled cup with doing something like this. It is definitely a step in that right direction. Lastly is a happiness jar. This is something that I do recommend for families, for kids, for those of you who want to do this. I recommend it. Get a jar. Some of you might think of it a gratitude jar. So anything that's really great that happens to you that makes you happy, write it on a piece of paper, put it in the jar. And that is a way that you can sort of reflect on everything that's gone right versus everything that's gone wrong. And so if we can really start to shift that and start focusing more on the happiness aspect of what happens every single day, we can start to lean into different ways in which we might be able to, again, create that happiness and really have a joy-filled life amidst this chaos. So that is the last of our session today. This is one of the things that Jay Shetty mentioned in his talk. He says, if you're having a really bad day, what is one thing you can do today to make it a great day for you? What's one thing? So I'm not going to pull this one because we're out of time. But as we tie up, I wanted to just finish off this session with thank you for participating. I do have my personal information here, my email. If you have any questions about anything that was shared today, please you throw them in the chat box right now, And if those of you have to hop off the call, I definitely recognize that we are at the top of the hour right now. Any questions, comments, thoughts? I'd love to listen and hear. Feel free to email me directly, or you can jot it in the chat box at this point, and I'll just hang out here for a couple of minutes and answer some of those that come in. You're welcome, everybody. So nice to see your names. I know it's such a tough thing not being able to see you, but I do recognize that I wanted to share with you. Yes, share the recording with your families. We are doing this again live, May 19th, I believe. I could have that date wrong. I believe it's May 19th. So take a look at that, and we will give you an opportunity to attend with your families. And so that's in the evening, 7 p.m. and the third week of May. So if you wanted to share the recording and get it, definitely, but also maybe they might like to come live. So we're going to be doing it again. Oh, I'm so glad you have Jay's book and you're reading it now. Oh, I just would love to collaborate with you once I get through it. I might reach out to see how you liked it. Awesome. All right, well, I am going to, there's folks still on the call. If you found that to be helpful, oh, you are so welcome, Jen. I'm really happy that you were able to join in today. It's certainly what I love to do. It's love to be able to do this more. Yeah, it's my passion for sure. So I'm going to just stay online here for another couple of minutes. I know it's top of the hour now, and then we'll be able to share this link with you once we get everything turned over to usable link, okay? Awesome. All right, well, have a superb rest of your day. Look for ways in which you can take some of these ideas and start to move yourself forward in that direction that you want to go. And hopefully there's a way that you can start to see some glimmer of light at the end of this really dark tunnel right now, and ways in which we're able to do that as we share more and more ideas together. Have a great day.